Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Americana, the show where we break down and talk about all things political in our current country. I'm Shakia, bringing the Democratic perspective.
And I'm Willie, bringing the Republican perspective.
And in this episode, we'll dive into the topic like Trump's U.S. border agencies plan to staff cuts, and as well as the ongoing issues of policing, crime, and public safety in America. This is Americana. Well, folks, let's get started with our talking points. You ready?
All right. Well, Shakia, let's talk about DOGE or Dodge. So let's talk about DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. For those that don't know, Elon Musk is leading the way. Just yesterday, President Trump gave him just a little bit more power. And I know the Dodge part to me is Democrats wants to dodge transparency. And so DOGE is going to shrink the swamp, which we have a lot of. It's going to bring fiscal responsibility, efficiency over bloat, and less government and more freedom, something that the Democrat Party has no knowledge and awareness of other than storming up and down the Capitol trying to insurrect our great government. But Elon Musk, sitting in the office, the Oval Office at that, had made some changes and saying that they are coming for every department necessary to cut the spending. So many dollars have been wasted over the last administration, and it is hurting the American people.
I'm going to take a sip of my tea before we get started with mine, okay?
Cheers.
Okay, so keeping in the same vein of Elon Musk, I'm not sure if he's the first gentleman of the United States or what, but his blatant disrespect in yesterday's press conference was very telling about how the state of our country is now in the hands of someone who was not elected into office. You mentioned that he is over DOGE or Dodge, and what did you say? We're dodging transparency. You are real, not you in particular, but your party is very known for gaslighting. Would you agree? We'll talk about that in a second. But honestly, though, just the blatant disrespect of the Oval Office, from his casual attire to having his toddler wrapped around his neck during a press conference. And if you listen closely to the little boy, he actually cursed at Trump. But we'll talk about that a little later as well. But I just want to show how hypocritical the Republican Party is, and particularly Musk having his child during a press conference in the Oval Office. Should that have been Obama or, God forbid, Vice President Kamala Harris, it would be all over the news. Would you agree?
Let's talk about that. So what is the problem with Elon Musk having his son in the Oval Office?
The problem is there's a time and a place for everything, right? You're a spiritual man. We know this. There's a time and a place. There's a time and a place. Having your toddler in the Oval Office at a time of a press conference, some people may say, like, oh, it shows the nature of our country, the progressiveness of our country. You all hate that word. But honestly, during something like that, it would have been appropriate to have your toddler with a nanny, which I'm sure he can afford, or someone could have him in a different office. But the little boy was very disruptive during the press conference, and not even just the little boy. Let's talk about his daddy. Can we talk about his daddy?
Go ahead, let's see. What?
Let's talk about his dad and the posture he took during the press conference. The fact that he has been the only person in this country's history to not respect the Oval Office and the attire. Everyone in there had on a suit and tie. Elon Musk comes in with a ball cap that says, obviously, "Make America Great Again." He had on a very casual shirt with just some type of jacket that he wears normally every day. And he stood adjacent to the president of the United States, who this country elected. We'll get into that another time. Was actually giving over the power to allow him to talk for 30 minutes to the press. That's never happened before.
Right, but this is showing the actual place where we are right now. You don't have to come in and look like some polished individual. You can come in just looking simple, like most of the average Americans are simple. They're showing up simple, Shakia. They're not showing up in suits and ties. They're showing up to say, I have to go to work 9 to 5. I have to go and take care of my kids. All of that was exemplified last night.
I would agree. I would agree with that. Most billionaires don't come in they Gucci and they big Ferraris and they don't, right? They don't. So I agree with that. However, again, there's a time and a place. What happens to the decorum of what's been set as precedents without, every administration? Why couldn't he adhere to just a simple suit
Well, we could say that about Obama. Obama removed the bowling alley and put a basketball court. We could say that was ghetto.
Okay, so we're talking about apples and oranges.
But
Here we are. I'm talking about the specific Oval Office.
But we're saying that at the same time, he's bringing something new and fresh. We're in 2025. We are not in the White House of Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and all these
Actually, I would say that we are, given all of the rules and regulations that they're trying to roll back.
Let's go back to DOGE. DOGE is shrinking the swamp. What do you feel about this? That the Democrats do not want accountability. These were the same individuals, as it was mentioned by Senator Kennedy, these were the same individuals that wanted to hire over 80,000 IRS workers to audit American people armed with guns. And now that we're having an agency that is here to bring efficiency and to look after the American people's dollars, now they're crying. They're doing the little thing that AOC did, standing at the border crying when there was nobody there, crying at the border with crocodile tears. For what? You have been ineffective, especially some of these people who've been in office almost 40 years and have done absolutely nothing, especially Maxine Waters. I'm going to keep saying it because she's Auntie Maxine.
Thank you. Put a little hook on that.
She is literally from California, where it is absolutely garbage on the streets of California where she's from, and she does nothing about the efficiency of where she's from in her district, but she wants to come tell us about how we need to take care of the United States.
So there is homelessness, and there are a number of unhoused people in this country. It's not just affecting California. It's in Florida. It's in Georgia. It's also in red states. So let's be clear about that, right? But we can talk about it another time.
Red states.
We can talk about homelessness and how unhoused people in a second.
In Democrat cities.
You mentioned something about the Democrats not wanting to be held accountable. There are checks and balances in our country for a reason. There are judges now who are having the balls and the gall to stand up against Trump, to make sure that he understands that he is not a dictator of this country. We are going to take a quick commercial break. We'll dive into the pressing issues of policing, crime, and public safety in America after this. This is Americana.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in on the live. We're keeping it flowing. We got a couple of seconds before we get back to the live show, but thank you for tuning in. This is going to be an awesome show because we're talking about everything politics as we have been doing all week. So the question I want to ask you guys is, do you really think that Trump is trying to destroy this country? Absolutely not. And so I'm excited about engaging with you guys. This is important. See you soon.
Hey folks, welcome back to Americana. Let's get into Point Counterpoint.
All right. This is about crime, policing, and public safety. So, I did a little research, you guys, because I looked back at the data from 2022 and 2023, and you know that 2024 data is often they're a little behind. And so I looked at the data, and what it showed was that there was some FBI mishaps where the FBI reported that there were some low numbers in murders and robbery, and then they had to come back and report that it wasn't. So what they found is that in these blue Democrat cities, that there is an increase. There's an increase in murder. There's been the Democrat cities are a mess. Theft, carjacking and smash and grab is happening. We have the border crisis that fueled the crime, which we all know we need to send the illegals back. Fentanyl, cartel violence, human trafficking are spiked. And this is the key that Republicans stand for, that Democrats hate. We hate the word law and order. The Republican Party is the only party that stands for 100% law and order. It's time to clean up this mess, Shakia. I've been saying it's time to clean up this mess. When you see the increase of crime in only the blue city areas, there are areas that should not have fecal matter maps showing how much poop is all over the city in these Democrat-ran places. But these are the same ones who will march up and down the place saying, we shall overcome, Black Power, and as you said, BLM, that was part of the destructive part.
You can say it. It's
like someone
Black Lives
says,
Matter.
no, it's burning, looting, and murdering.
Black Lives
That's what
Matter.
it said. Burning,
You are a black
looting,
man.
and murdering.
You are a
That's
black
what it stands
man.
for. But nevertheless, I'll yield my time.
Okay, yielding your time. So I love the dialogue. I think a lot of us need to have sensible conversations like this, right? Especially given the heightened disproportionate rate of Black and brown people being incarcerated and having longer and harsher sentences that only impacts people that look like me and you, right? So since now Trump is in office, we know that on the campaign trail, he mentioned that he wanted to give police officers full immunity. But I think we should ground ourselves in the history of where police officers arrived on the scene. People who look like you and I were never supposed to wear a badge. We were not supposed to swear to protect and to serve our country. However, because of the progressive laws that we've all benefited from, which is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're gonna talk about this, right? So I say that because American history includes the racial divide. When it comes to justice reform and community policing, what does that actually look like now under Trump's administration? I would like to hear from you, Willie.
So let's actually break
You
this
gave
down.
data about the FBI.
Right.
And you talked about blue
let's
cities.
break this down. Yes, we do have people who are racist, right? That is not party affiliation. That is the condition of someone's heart, okay?
Sure.
That is not party affiliation. That's the condition of someone's heart. Overall, you have seen increasing number of Trump wanting to help the Black community.
You can't be serious.
I am absolutely
Don't piss
serious.
me off today, Will. You cannot
You already
be serious.
know this. I'm going to listen to you.
How,
He came
Will?
up with so many plans, especially the platinum
Concepts
plan.
of a plan.
If it's a concept, it's in the works to be a plan. How else do you develop a plan? You write the vision.
Well,
make
he's
it
been
plain.
doing everything else since he's been in office for the
Right.
last
And
20 days.
He had put so many billions of dollars. Most of the people right now that are in Black and brown communities that are effectively operating businesses are operating them in opportunity zones that was started by two Black individuals, Dr. Ben Carson, Senator.
We're not going to talk about Ben Carson.
Senator Scott.
He was my man. Little side note, I read a book about him when I was in school about gifted hands. Do you remember that book?
Got gifted hands.
No, he does not have gifted hands.
He got gifted. He got gifted. I ain't messing with you today.
Okay.
He got gifted hands. Senator Scott, she done got me off track, y'all.
I'm sorry.
Senator Scott, Dr. Ben Carson, and Trump together came up with these opportunity zones. These are billions of dollars that's allocated into Black and brown community or opportunity zones, which are underserved communities to help grow. But the Democrats don't want to adhere to that.
No, not necessarily. But let's talk about billions of dollars. Do you know how much money one inmate costs in federal prison or in a prison reform? Do you know how much?
Tell me.
$31,280 is what one inmate costs. So why do you think the prison stock, the private prison stock, went up when Trump won the election just a couple of months ago?
You really think he's trying
No,
to...
just answer that for me. Why do you think the prison stock...
Are you insinuating
I'm
that
not
he's
insinuating.
trying to incarcerate...
I am saying the reason why the stock market went up for private prison reform, not prison reform, but for private prisons, was because of his campaign on mass deportations. If he rounded up a ton of illegals and folks who are running around killing your kids, hiding your dogs, eating your dogs, your cats and dogs, right? Remember that? If he's rounding these people up and incarcerating them, how much money do you think he's going to get if the number is $31,280?
He is not going to use our prisons to incarcerate them. That's why he's shipping them back over to their country.
So do you not believe in the prison pipeline? Do you not believe in that theory?
That has nothing to do with the illegals.
That has a lot to do. Not necessarily illegals, right? But centering back on the United States of America.
Right. Do you think that crime should be punished?
Crime should be punished.
This is talking about
sensible.
So what's not sensible about robbing, murdering, looting, stealing? What's not sensible?
I am not talking about the act.
But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about violent crime in the United States.
You're talking about violent crime, and I'm asking you, what does reform look like for those people who did the crime?
Reform looks like this. Reform looks like being able to have agencies right now, inside of the departments, federal departments, inside of local departments, municipalities, they do their own internal investigation. Reform means that you have agencies outside of that are able to go in and look at such things as if you feel like you are being harassed as a black or brown person, if you feel like someone is threatening your life as a black or brown person, you should have an external investigator. That is reform.
That is reform. However, let's talk about rehabilitation.
After
you've been reformed, where does the community come in to provide those services for those who have served their time, did their debt to society?
That's not a federal issue. That's a state issue. The moment that federal get in there, you're asking for federal dollar, our tax dollars to pay for that, okay?
I am.
And so, no, but we need our state. What do we have state government for? The state government should handle rehabilitation.
It should be both and. It should be both and. But according to Doge, that may not even be an issue. We're going to take a short commercial break. Coming up after this, we will have Fact or Spin. This is Americana.
Take a break. All right, you guys, we're back on another break. I hope that you guys are enjoying the show. As you see, it's getting a little flustered here going on, but nonetheless, it's a great conversation because above all, we want you guys to be engaged and involved. So make sure to comment. No matter what side you stand on, it's important that the American people are aware and educated on both sides of the matters that take place in our country. And so don't be one of those people that sit on the couch, don't vote, don't get involved. Get involved. Let's hear from you. We do look at the comments to get feedback. So you may actually hear us mention that throughout the show. So we thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to going back to the show and y'all tuning in. So thank you.
Welcome back to Americana. Let's get into Fact or Spin.
Well, you know this is my favorite Shakira. Political personality disorder, as I like to call it. I'm telling y'all gonna coin this for Christmas. And so we're gonna talk about this Democrat. This is what I want to talk about. This is what I feel like. The maps are coming up, and it's getting ready to be a conversation about the Democrats' new legislative maps that they want.
Oh, yeah. Congrats.
And so I think that this is, again, they're already starting the process of trying to steal the election in the midterm. So I think that they're already working towards not only trying to steal the election, I think they're also working through the gerrymandering. This is a desperation move. It's gerrymandering hypocrisy because they had an issue with maps across the state when they felt like it was too many red-leaning districts that they were losing their opportunity. It's ignoring voter intent. It's a policy failure, and they know that Republicans are resilient right now, and they're doing anything in their power and everything in their power to prevent there to be another red wave. And so they're already working hard on trying to stop the Republicans from maintaining dignity in the United States. So I'm just going to, leave that there and
Dignity is your word. That's your choice of word.
There's dignity in the
That is what you call what your party is doing.
I mean, we're not the ones out here trying to switch the map to appease.
No, you don't have to do that. You have Elon Musk, who's able to change all of the voting ballots.
But he does have the money to go after individuals
give me my time.
who are.
I'm gonna reclaim my time. Can I get my time?
Your time.
Appreciate you. So you mentioned something about gerrymandering. That typically happens in a red state where the governor, I'll just use Florida as example, right? If we were to live in Florida, you have a governor who intentionally removed 2 black congressional districts in order for his party, the Republican Party, to gain full control of the state legislature. Would you agree?
No, that's
not what happened.
That's actually not what happened. If you go back and look.
So if I wish I had a map or something to show you.
I want to tell you, and this has happened all across the country, where they draw these district maps, because I want y'all to know
Who
that.
is they?
I'm about to break it down. So whenever you have congressional district maps is not drawn by your U.S. Congress. They are drawn by your state legislator.
Sure.
State legislators go into committee throughout municipalities, and they ask the people what they want.
Yep.
When you have blue-leaning areas, such as in places like in Florida and surrounding counties like that, this is what they did. They drew a map of a district that went all the way from Orlando clear up to Jacksonville, Florida. Don't tell me that that's not gerrymandering.
No, but so to piggyback on that, if we were to have lived in Florida, there were a number of maps who were submitted to the state legislature to confirm what would be appropriate, what is seemed reasonable and fair that would encompass not what you're saying from Orlando all the way to Jacksonville, right? That was one of the map options, I believe. However, because there was so much chaos around that situation, the lovely governor of Florida decided to take it upon himself to draw his own map. And because there is a supermajority in the Florida legislature, which map do you think was approved?
Okay, so...
Can you answer that for me so the people can hear you loud and clear?
That's not... Okay, we're talking about gerrymandering from the Democrat perspective. They're coming back and they're trying to gerrymander. That, even if you look at across the United States, look at how many of these blue districts, blue municipalities that are impacting our country. You have places like Chicago.
We can't be impacting too much, Will. I mean, y'all won the election fair and square, right?
But this is the key.
And that's with the maps that mostly y'all, when I say y'all, I mean your Republican Party, drafted as the congressional maps.
We drafted the maps all the way in New York.
So what's the issue?
We drafted the maps in New York, Chicago, Philly. All those maps was drafted by Republicans.
And then what's the issue now?
The issue is that they're wanting to take over because they are scared that Republicans are actually going to do something to clean up the mess that they created. I don't want to keep seeing poop maps all over the TV because California can't clean up.
Describe poop maps,
poop
Will.
maps. You want me to describe it?
Please.
It's a map of poop. It's a map.
And who is the poop? I want you to be very clear for the American people.
The poop is from the homeless. And the homeless population that is caused because the Democrats refuse to do something to clean up their cities.
So let's talk about this. So I just saw the heart of the nature. This is not about political maps. This isn't about power. You are really trying to dehumanize people who are homeless.
No, I work with homeless people.
No.
I cannot dehumanize
if it's not just, if it's not you, but it's your party.
It's not to dehumanize.
You're calling people who are unhoused, who don't have shelter, who aren't able to provide housing for their families as poop. Did I hear you correctly?
No, they literally poop in the street.
Will.
This is not, they're not poop. They poop all over the street. You just said right now that there were individuals who were there that were supposed to be protecting and taking care of that. These people are pooping all over the street.
Well,
do you think if the money that you said, the money that they get,
the case,
you said, hold on. You said the federal government should give money to municipalities, correct?
That is correct.
They should help. If the federal government is giving money and allocating money to local municipalities, to state, whatever, why is that money not being used to clean up the homelessness? Why are they not being put into homeless housing and shelters and getting mental health? Why is this not taking place? Why should there be tents all over a city?
I would agree, right? there should be checks and balances. There should be accountability about where the funding is going for that. However, you do have some municipalities who are doing right by the money. And then you would have a supermajority state legislature who would allow homelessness to be a crime. So you tell me, if I lose my job and I am not able to secure funding for me and my children, that I am now penalized. I should be put in jail. My kids should be placed in DCF because I am a criminal.
Is that what the law
That
says?
is in some red states. If I were to have lived in Florida, that actually
Shakira,
would be
is that what the law says?
what the governor.
Is that what the law says?
It
or
is.
It puts the responsibility back into the hands of the municipality, telling that the mayors, the commissioners, and city council should be responsible for their homeless population, which they should have been responsible.
It is a S show. It's a poop show.
Do they not get appropriations?
They do get appropriations. I know that we got to wrap up real soon.
Well, we'll wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
But we're going to say this. Should those appropriations be used to take care of all people, not just the people who you see that can come and sit inside of your commissioner meeting? Should not the homeless
It should be
accounted?
allocated properly, and as I said
And that's what
before,
I'm saying.
there
It's
should be
not
checks and
properly
balances.
allocated.
But you
Checks and
calling
balances.
unhoused people, homeless people, poop because
I
they
did
are
not
literally.
say they were poop.
You did
Shakira,
call them
you did not. That is
This
fake
is
news.
today's show. Thank you so much for watching. We
That
are here
is fake
weekdays,
news.
6:30 p.m. Mrs. Americana.